Hi, we're continuing with factors and multiples today, and what I'd like to do, just as a bit of a blast from the past, I guess, is have a go at this do now task. So pause the video, have a go at it, and then I'll go through it now, so you can mark in red pen. Right, should have had a go at it by now. So remember, with multiplying decimals, we can use our lattice method. So we set it up. Hopefully I'll have enough space here. Looks like I just about will. So 2 times 1 is 2, 8 times 2 is 16, 8 times 3 is 24. So I was just thinking I should put this was non-calculator. And then add them up. 4 add 1 is 5, add 2 is 7, 2 add 3 is 6. Decimal point, we need to follow it down here, so it goes here, then in between. So my answer is 6.76. Let's double check. So 1.8 is about 2, 3.2 is about 3, so 3 times 2 is 6, and that's close to my final answer, so I know that my decimal place is in the right place. Right, next up, last lesson, and you might not have done it the way that I do it, but it's you can do it any way you like, really, but I'm going to start with 14 and 10. Neither of those are prime, so I carry on. 7 and 2, which are both prime. 5 and 2, which are both prime. So my final answer is 140 equals 2 times 2 times 5 times 7. Or you could write that as 2 squared times 5 times 7. Right, next question. So I'm going to fill in some angles here. I know this one's 80 degrees because corresponding angles are equal. I'm just going to put the acronym corresponding angles are equal. In an exam, you'd have to put the whole thing. You'd have to write a whole reason if it said give reasons. And then I know that, what colour should we do in? Let's go yellow. I know that this angle is 120 degrees because alternate angles are equal. And then I can say that this angle, because this is adjacent angles on a straight line, I can do 180 take away 120, which is 60 degrees. So I know that this angle is 60 degrees because angles on a straight line add to 180 degrees. And then finally, I've got a triangle here. So you're using lots of the angle facts that we learned over the last couple of weeks. So I know angles in a triangle add to 180, so 180 take away 80 take away 60 is 40 degrees. So x is equal to 40 degrees. And that final reason was because angles in a triangle add to 180 degrees. So again, I'm just putting the acronym, but you'd be if it said give reasons, you'd be expected to write it all out. I'm just being a bit lazy and sort of quick. Right, mark everything you've done in red pen and just make any notes about anything. Email me if you're confused about any of that. Right, we're just gonna go through working out highest common factor and then on to lowest common multiple. I'm going to do a worked example, so I'll just the question is find the highest common factor of, and then I know we're really good at finding the highest common factor of two numbers from when we did factorising. So I'm going to give you 3 numbers this time, and for this one you don't have to do it, you can just watch me do it, and then I'll give you a your turn one. So first up, So I'll just talk through what I did now. If you're ever asked to find the highest common factor, key word is factor. Think, right, if it's highest common factor, I need to write out my factors. Write out the factors of these three numbers, and then find the highest one that's common to all of them. So notice that there are some other common factors, like they all have 5, and they all have 2. Whoops. They all have 2, but we want the highest one, which is why I picked 10, because that's the highest one that's common to all of those numbers. Right, the one that I'd like you to have a go at is, whoops, so I might just space them out a bit, so I'll give myself some more space for when I do it. So have a go at that question yourself, and then I'll go through it now. So you can mark in red pen. So remember, easiest place to start with factors is 1 in itself. And then that is all of them. Now let's think about a skill from yesterday. Does it divide by 3? Well, if I add these two digits together, 4 and 4 is 8, which isn't divisible by 3. So I know that there's not a factor of 3 in there. And then I think we've got them all there. So now it's time to pick out the highest common factor. Well, notice they all have a common factor of 2, but that's not the highest one. The highest one is 4. So my highest common factor is 4. Well done if you got that. Okay, on to lowest common multiple then. And I'll go through one on the left, and then I'll, same as we did before, but with lowest common multiple. So I should write the question first. So I'll go through this question, then I'll talk through it, and then I'll give you your turn on. So now I'll talk through it. If you're ever asked to find the lowest common multiple, keyword here is multiple. So we need to write out our multiples of the first number, and I sort of just there's no like you must write out the first 5 multiples or 6 multiples, so on and so on. Just go up for a while, and then if you if you find there's still not a common one, just keep going and going and going until you find the first common number that's common to both. A lot of people, a common mistake that people make is they think, right, lowest common multiple, let's multiply them together, and there I've got the lowest common multiple, which sometimes does work, but you can see that in this case it doesn't work because my lowest common multiple is 12, so you can't just always multiply the numbers together. You need to write out the multiples of the number, and then you're definitely going to be able to get the lowest common multiple. Sometimes you're given higher numbers, and notice that from this you could also tell me the lowest common multiple of 40 and 60. Sometimes you're given quite high numbers like that maybe, but there's no difference. It's your 4 times table just multiplied by 10. So your lowest common multiple would be 120. Right, your turn. I'm going to give you. So have a go at that. And then I'll go for it now. So you should have had a go at it now. Make sure you got your red pen out ready to mark. So it says multiple, so I'll find the lowest common multiple, same question, so I'm going to write out the multiples. And then I'm just going to stop there to see if I get a number that's common to any of these in my 20 times table. I think I've already seen it. And we can see that my lowest common multiple is 60. Another common mistake people make is when they get higher numbers, so they get like 120 and 150. They often make a mistake in their multiplication somewhere, so they might go 240, 360. Sorry, so that's exactly what I'm talking about. Because they're high numbers, people make mistakes. So I might have gone 320 and then carried on, but actually it's 360 here. So just be really careful when you're adding on your 120s. Another thing you could do here is divide both by 10 and do your 12 and 15 instead, and then times your final answer by 10. But yeah, that's just a common thing to look out for. Just be really, really careful with how you're writing out your multiples, and make sure you're adding on 120 each time, and then on the right side you would add on 150 each time. So there's a couple of pitfalls that people fall into. It's the just times the numbers together, and again, look, you'll see here 15 times 20 is 300, so it's nowhere near what our lowest common multiple is. So that's one common mistake. And then the other one is just being really careful with your, it was that example I gave of just be really careful with writing out your multiples. What I'd like to do now then, because the question won't always be as straightforward as find the highest common factor or find the lowest common multiple. They're sometimes in worded questions. So what I'd like you to have a go at is have a read of question 8 and 5. I just picked them from something I found, and all I'd like you to do, you might want to have a go at it, or you don't necessarily have to, but all I'd like you to do is just say, do you think the question is requiring you to find the highest common factor or the lowest common multiple? So there's one of each. Read them. See, all you have to do is just put 8 and then either highest common factor or lowest common multiple, and then 5, and then the same thing. And then if you, I'll go through them as well. So if you want to have a go at them, have a go at them as well. So hopefully you've said now what you think it is. So Helen has organised a party and needs plates and straws. There are 30 plates in a pack and 120 straws in a pack. She needs exactly the same number of plates as straws. What is the minimum number of each pack she must buy? A lot of things to do with buying things in packs is to do with multiples, because say you have a pack of 30 of something, then 2 packs is going to give you 60, and 3 packs, and so on and so on and so on. So that is a lowest common multiple question, because you're finding that you're keeping on increasing the number of packs, you increase the number of plates. So then my other number was 120, and actually I can see that that's my lowest common multiple straight off. So the question was, what is the minimum number of each pack she must buy? Well, she needs 1, 2, 3, 4 packs of plates and 1 pack of straws. And the reason for that is because she needs exactly the same number of each. So exactly the same number, we're thinking lowest common multiple, because it's common exactly the same. It's another way of saying that. So then 5 was your highest common factor question. And that is because you're like dividing a string by an amount. So whenever we're thinking of factors, we're thinking, right, what divides into a certain amount. So if we have a piece of string that's 18 and one that's 24, and we want them all to be the same length, then I'll just give an example of as to how you could do this sort of wrong. If I split this in two, then I can see that I've got a factor of 24 because I've got two lots of 12, so it's like writing out 2 and 12. But then if I want them all to be the same length, so if I split this into 12, I'd have 4 left over, so I can see that that doesn't fit the criteria of being the same length. So I've identified it's a highest common factor question, so I'm going to write out the factors of each of them. 2 and 9, 3 and 6, and that's it. 1 and 24. So I can see that my highest common factor is 6, so I could split these into 3 equal parts of 6, and I could split this into 4 equal parts of 6, and then every piece of string is the same length. So my final answer is 6 centimeters. So greatest length is like saying the highest factor, and then because they're the same length, that's like saying that it's common to both. So I'll throw in some more worded questions later in the week, and we're also going to do some more highest common factor and lowest common multiple, but some harder questions in our next lesson as well. Have a great rest of your day.